The waste management opens a huge one, right? You have some of these periods of time where you've got 2 or 3 months with huge high demand dates that are going to be, potentially 40, 50% of your revenue for the year. So if you miss those and you're off, you're screwed for the year. Welcome back to the STR Intel Podcast. My name is Philip, and today I've got, you know them, you love them. I got Craig and Killian here with me. Between these two guys, ton of business development and sales experience in the vacation rental industry, over 10 years of experience between the two of you. And today we're going to be talking about boosting your vacation rental revenue. We got 3 main topics we're going to talk about to kind of go through it. Those topics are: what are some effective marketing strategies that you can do? What are some property upgrades and enhancements for your property? And then what is a dynamic pricing tool? If you haven't heard that term before, we'll lightly cover it and talk about, should you have a dynamic pricing tool? Is it any different than Airbnb Smart Tool? Those kinds of things. So yeah, guys, welcome back on.
Thanks for having us.
How you guys doing?
Doing well. It is a beautiful July day here in Colorado Springs, so cannot complain.
Killing
well,
it.
That's nice. We got 111 on the thermostat out here in Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona. So while you guys are enjoying some nice mountain weather, we're soaking up the sun down here in the desert.
Nice. Awesome. Well, hopefully with some experience. So your experience with vacation rentals is in Colorado Springs and Colorado area, and then Killian has experience in Colorado, but he's been out in Arizona for a while in the Phoenix area. So hopefully we can kind of bring some of these tips for both of the markets that are a little different in some ways. You got mountain and desert towns. So yeah, if you guys want to kick it off, we can start talking about effective marketing strategies. What are some effective marketing strategies? And really who we're talking to here is self-managed owners or people that are looking to maybe purchase a home or get into the vacation rental industry. So yeah, some of those topics, we can talk about marketing platforms. So a lot of people have heard of Airbnb, VRBO, maybe not as familiar with booking.com when it comes to short-term rentals, but there's a ton of them. Marriott is on the scene now. They've been on the scene for about a year now. TripAdvisor, there's hundreds of them and literally popping up every day. So should someone list on just Airbnb, because I see that's a lot of people are like, oh, Airbnb's fine, I get plenty of traction, or I'm just on VRBO. Should somebody list on just one or multiple platforms? What are some of the pros and cons of that?
Sure. That's, for a starter one, the most common known name, Airbnb.com. I always like to suggest to people to think of Airbnb.com and similar booking websites. These, they're referred to as online travel agencies, OTAs. I encourage people to look at those booking websites as effectively billboards on the side of highways or interstates that traditionally would advertise a hotel. So part of what you're paying for when you list your property on a website like Airbnb is their network of marketing. They are taking a portion of their revenue and they're putting it towards marketing the Airbnb brand, which has some downstream effects to your property and offers a really easy platform for guests to both book on and for you as a new host to begin hosting. I think that once you are comfortable with Airbnb, or maybe you're a fast learner, you should quickly look towards getting it on VRBO, your second lowest hanging fruit to Airbnb. So just kind of in a nutshell, I'll of course start with Airbnb, and then I would work to merge Airbnb and VRBO. The only maybe little kind of thought I would have in regards to that is, depending on your area and also the luxury of your property, there may be a case to be made to start out on VRBO and then sync it to Airbnb. VRBO can have a little bit of an older demographic, maybe a little bit more of a luxury inventory than Airbnb, which got started more in the room sharing or the house sharing industry. So I just think kind of off the cuff right there.
I would agree with that. And looking at the industry as a whole, Airbnb is the staple. People say I'm going to an Airbnb, even if they're renting a Verbo or on Expedia. So they really captured the market with the branding. So Airbnb, absolutely, that's where you get the most eyes. And as you indicated, VRBO, the next low-hanging fruit. From what I've seen, you do get that older generation, you get longer stays, and then Expedia is built in with VRBO now. So, right off the bat, you're getting basically three there. They sync together well. But a stat that I think we got from the VRMAs, 40% of travel in Europe is booked on booking.com. And people are coming over here just as much as we're going over there. So finding a way to incorporate all of these, and the new ones popping up. Hopper Homes is a new one that we're integrated on, and the analytics there, or the demographic, I believe, when we talked to the rep, was Gen Z. And if you dice it up to generationals, divides who's booking what, getting in front of all of them and getting that omnipresence of all the platforms, I think is the best if you have the means to do so. And by that, making sure you're not double booking or having cleaning issues, task management, etc. So making sure that you are first and foremost well equipped to do so. Airbnb, VRBO, they sync together very well. They read the calendars, and it's pretty seamless.
So booking on multiple platforms, essentially you cast a broader net to get more bookings and attract more guests, but it's not to say there's not more work that needs to be done. You still have to maintain that integration, VRBO, whatever it is. So things like syncing your calendars together, or like you said, depending on your how you're handling tasks and communications to cleaners, and then the two different inboxes. So there is a little additional management that goes beyond that.
Well, and I just thought of a scenario too. I have a friend who runs a short-term rental up in Denver. They were on just Airbnb, and they had a neighbor complaint, unwarranted. It was just a very difficult neighbor to deal with. Anyway, it was an unwarranted complaint. They shut his entire listing down. No advertising, couldn't book any other homes, and he was solely vested on Airbnb. So for those reasons too, the diversifying of the channels is crucial, because your whole business could get shut down on something that you didn't even do. If there's no validity to it, just a disgruntled neighbor, disgruntled guest, etc., they're going to shut it down and do an investigation, which great, needed in certain cases, but also got to make sure you cover yourself.
I know Airbnb this year started a new delisting process where essentially if your listing gets a certain amount of bad reviews under 3 stars in a row, they'll pause the listing for a week, give you that chance to mitigate whatever issues were there, whether they're warranted or not. And if they don't agree with your resolutions for that issue, they can permanently delete your listing, and they'll cancel all your reservations as well. So yeah, to your point about risk mitigation is like, okay, if you're on multiple platforms, it's not, you don't lose your whole business because, the guest complained about homeless people outside or something out of your control.
Exactly. It also, so not only in terms of marketing, getting your property onto more listing websites, but like you guys have mentioned, risk mitigation, but as well as giving you as a host a little bit more flexibility with the types of rules and cancellation policies you want with your property. If you're only on one website, let's just assume most commonly it's Airbnb, and you're striving for Superhost and #1 listing status. I know they kind of new award out. You're essentially playing by their rules of doing business. And if you're stuck in an unfortunate situation where you need to cancel a reservation for whatever it may be, and it doesn't necessarily adhere to Airbnb's processes and rules on canceling a reservation, they're going to ding your account. So by having your listing on multiple listing websites, you also give yourself, even though you're adding just a little bit more layer of complication because you do have a business, but you're in the hospitality industry, but you're giving yourself a little bit better insulation for having your home managed kind of on your terms, your cancellation policies, your guest rules, and not quite relying so much on the booking platform's policies.
You had a really good example, a story, and you don't have to mention any specific names, but you had a really good case for the Superhost thing.
Sure,
Can you
yeah.
give that example? I thought it was a great example.
Yeah, most commonly it's just around canceling reservations, but in this particular situation, a client had reached out and wanted my advice on a situation where the person that had booked the home came to Airbnb, screened to Airbnb, turned out had a warrant for a nonviolent crime, and the police went to the property. And when the owner was notified and found this out, she initiated a cancellation process with Airbnb, and Airbnb gave her quite a lot of kickback because technically they hadn't really violated any specific rules of that property. Now, if she really pushed the issue, she probably could have the police remove the guest, but it was one of those circumstances where everything else aside, no damage to the property, a good guest, there was just this police involvement. And she ended up having to keep the guest in for the remainder of like the 2.5-week reservation, I believe it was. And thankfully the guest checked out with no issues at all, and it all kind of disappeared. But in the meantime, when you've got the police at the home and Airbnb is not cooperating with you, it can be a pretty frustrating and scary situation, not knowing what you're about to walk into with your property. So Superhost, these things, they have some very good things that come with them. I guess the point we're trying to make is that don't just rely on them solely. You'll kind of be pigeonholing yourself into some things that come back and bite you. If you're looking to grow and improve your short-term rental.
Right, because that conversation or that situation could have went completely different. That guest could have destroyed the house, but instead this person was beholden to Airbnb and the Superhost status and was fearful of losing that, and they basically couldn't make the decision, go with the route they wanted.
Yes.
You basically lose control of your property, your business, because of standards that might not even make sense at the time, like that scenario.
Yeah, and every platform and their policies is different, and they change periodically too, just like with Airbnb's kind of delisting process now.
A thought that just popped into my head, when you look at a hotel, you go to Expedia, Kayak, TripAdvisor, all these sites. So all your name brand big hotels, they're not vested on one sole OTA either. Yeah. So if you look at that industry, which in a lot of ways ours emulates the hospitality hotel industry, but takes it a step further. So doubling down on one, if Hilton was like, we're just doing Expedia, they would never do that, and for good reason.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, massive outreach and massive listing distribution is as many eyes on the listing as possible. What are your guys' thoughts on, let's say maybe you are on VRBO, you're on Airbnb, and you hear the buzz about social media marketing or social media pages for your short-term rentals. Any thoughts on social media for increasing your performance?
Yeah, I think that there's a time and place, right? So if you have a unique stay, a covered wagon, short-term rental in the mountains, cool, awesome. That'd be something a guest would follow once they leave. But if you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in the middle of town, cool, it's an awesome rental. But I don't think there'd be much of a benefit. You're not going to get a whole lot of a following, in my opinion. My personal experience, we stayed at a place, an Airbnb in Belize, San Ignacio, and it's awesome place, awesome host. They had a social media, Instagram, and we did follow it. And now we know they have a pool, and it's keeping track of their updates, and we'd absolutely stay there again and seek that place out because it was such a good experience and it's so unique. It's in the jungle, interactive. So stuff like that, I think absolutely. Is it going to make a difference right away? Probably not. I think it's one of those seeds you plant, and eventually it'll come to fruition. Where if my mom or family, my mom was actually planning a trip to Belize, and I sent her that site, and it worked. So I think in those scenarios, it's effective. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, my question... You're saying on social media has a huge appeal for unique stays more so than a gotcha. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, your custom built homes, unique stays, your yurts, your tiny homes like
Tree forts.
yeah, stuff
tree
that's going to be
houses.
very, very Pinterest kind of eye catching and eye appealing. But if it's if you have, 2-bedroom condo or something right in the middle of the city, that's kind of, like everything else around you, it's probably not going to be the best move or the best bang for your buck out of all these tips we're going to give. I probably wouldn't start there. Like you said, that's more of a long game, and that is going to be a business managing that. Are you going to put ad money towards it, or are you just exposing this just to your friends? But in your case, it actually worked really well. So yeah, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, this is, it's not one size fits all. If you're going to do it, no matter the home, I suggest you begin collecting that content and material for the property over your stays. Maybe it's guest reviews. Maybe you're developing that story for that property based on guest feedback. And so you are beginning to grow a social media presence for your listing over a longer period of time. Whereas a tip like getting it on another booking website like Airbnb to VRBO could literally have overnight increases in your revenue.
Yeah.
Whereas something like a social media page is going to take some time to get going. And frankly, I don't even think people should really consider that as like another booking website. Like your social media page is really bringing awareness to the fact that there is a property to rent, not necessarily it being specifically about your property. Like, for example, if you have, like you had mentioned, let's just say it's a nice downtown property. So it's around a lot of fun things and it's heavily frequented, walking distance to different things. Well, maybe a good idea for a social media presence for that particular type of home is content about the events that take place in that downtown area, or street festivals, or seasonality trends and weather, when leaves change, those types of things. So you're giving guests looking for travel accommodations in that area, you're giving them kind of a value add about what's around that property or things to do. And then maybe you've linked your Airbnb page off from there, or your direct booking website if you've made it that far. I do sometimes see people try to make their social media presence actually like their booking website. And that can become tricky because then how are you taking those payments? Who's the merchant of record? Those types of things. Whose policies are they abiding by? Are you protected by any type of OTAs, damage policies? So when you've been taking reservations off of social media sites, there's just some other things to think about. Went a couple different directions there, but to summarize, maybe give value over social media, not particularly for that specific home, but for the area, for that guest, drive awareness for that area, then leading them to a traditional booking website that has all those boxes checked, screening, payment, etc. That makes sense. That get a little long-winded there.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Let's talk about guest reviews a little bit. What is kind of the strategy as far as getting guests to review? Because I think the latest stat I saw is it was like 1 out of 5 guests leaves a review at all. And typically the guests with a negative experience are the ones that are more likely to leave the review. The people that had either just, okay, it was fine, or a great experience are, I guess, for some reason, I guess I do the same thing. I rarely will leave a negative review when I go. It has to be, I don't think I've ever left a negative review. It has to be terrible.
I have.
But I typically just forget to leave. Hey, that was great. I love that stay. I'd go back, but I just forget to leave a review. So what are some helpful things people can do to maybe elicit those guests that had a great experience to leave a review?
Well, obviously, it starts from the beginning too. It starts at the booking process. Do you have a pretty smooth booking process? Do you have a quick response time? I believe right now with all of our properties, our guest response time is under 6 minutes, which is incredible. Airbnb, I believe their policy is response time with under an hour. So on the front end, but then during their stay, you can do automated messages. You could do a personal message. Maybe it ties into information you've collected from the guest when they booked. Maybe they're there for a birthday party, whatever it may be. But a check-in with the guest. And then I think one of the most crucial things and what we've had a lot of success with is just that end of stay reminder that if they enjoyed their stay and they had a wonderful time, here's the options to leave positive feedback, and also be prepared to detect negative sentiment and try to steer that guest away from a review site and to a resolution, whatever that may be.
I agree with all that. And it's, to me, all about creating fanatics, right? You want them to be fanatic about their experience. Everything's not going to go perfect, but the response time to it was under 6 minutes. We had an issue with the lock, but somebody was there, et cetera, et cetera. So creating a fanatic, blowing their expectations, the personal touches, something that, we turned our cabin over to our hosty services, and something that we're playing around with is putting a personal story. Hey, this is our cabin. It's a family-owned cabin. We got it back in 2023, and just hitting home that it is a small business run by homeowners, investors, just like you, and putting a little bit of that personal touch. Now, I'm very leery when I say that. Don't put canvases of your family in your home, or, just small and subtle, or, a page in the guest book.
Right.
So I'm always very cautious when I talk about that with homeowners, because people don't want to feel like they're living in your home, but it's cool to tell your story in a guest book or on a magnet on the fridge or something subtle like that. So very, very, a lot of stress on that point.
Yeah.
Well, I think that ties into just the experience that's offered during their stay as well. If you can provide, like, for example, in the Arizona area, we're providing a fairly robust concierge service, and the guest review, unfortunately, sometimes also revolves around things that don't involve the property. Just the experience they had during their vacation underlines their entire experience with the home. So potentially having options for your guests for upsells, not necessarily upsells, but services that they can engage with. And of course, whether you're doing your guest communications or you have someone else doing it, be prepared for recommendations and just to field your general hospitality types of questions.
Yeah, I always just assume that the guest has never been to this area or city and they have no idea what to do. And if you don't provide them recommendations, they're either just going to go to Google for their restaurants, things to do, or they're just going to sit in the house and watch TV and talk about what to do, right?
Yes.
Like, you go on vacation, it's like, where do you want to go eat?
I don't know. Where do you want to go?
And people just end up doing nothing, and then they don't necessarily have a great experience.
And then a potential issue at the property exacerbates, and the frustration didn't really begin from that issue. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, probably the most important part. Then actually using those reviews. What are you then doing with those reviews? Are you getting those in front of other guests? Are you getting those in front of potential clients? So then, kind of back to the social media. Then what are you actually doing to capitalize on your reviews and staying in touch with guests who do leave positive sentiment reviews? Are you funneling them into direct marketing campaigns to encourage rebookings? Are you sending them information about other activities in the area that would give them reason to book again? Whatever it is, are you somehow getting them into your network, your funnel of future repeat business?
I would also, with the reviews, and speaking Airbnb specific, because frankly, that's, as we talked about, one of the bigger ones, right? So Airbnb does a great job with encouraging reviews, where as a host, I would say review that guest right away when it's still fresh in their mind, because then Airbnb sends them a message saying, blank host just reviewed you. To see it, submit a review for them. So they do an awesome job, I think, with that. And then also sending push notifications to the guest. You only have 3 days left to review this property. And, maybe with that, as a host, sending a message X amount of days after the stay in sync with those Airbnb push notifications. Hey, we hope you enjoyed your stay. Would you take the time to review us? And a couple follow-ups if you don't get one, because Airbnb, you can automate all of that where it's a thoughtless process. So that could be another good tact for gather more.
I mean, just like my example, I just forget and I don't do it. I'm like, oh, that's a great stay. I don't do it. But yeah, maybe if I got more reminders, then I'll do it.
And to take it a step further, again, kind of linking it back to the social media presence, if you're continuing to interact with those guests after their stay, now you're also building a basis of clientele for when you are able to create a direct booking website or to be able to accept bookings through a social media platform. Yeah.
Last point about reviews too. So negative reviews, when they do come in, inevitably, something goes wrong that's either outside of your ability to manage it, or the guest doesn't like the house, or something breaks. Right, the fridge goes out, and you drop off a mini fridge, but you have to order a new one, and you're not going to be able to do it by the time they check in. So when guests leave negative reviews, that is a perfect time to respond, not just to that guest, but future guests that are checking out, hey, do I want to book this place? Let me look at all these reviews. Oh, there's this bad review. If you can respond with the solution in the review and show them, okay, great, that something went wrong, the guests didn't enjoy their stay, but they fixed it. Cool. Okay, I know if I stay at this place, I'm going to be taken care of, even if something goes wrong.
Man, and if you don't, I've seen it go the opposite, the contagion effect, where one bad review, then all of a sudden the next 5, if something's not addressed, it's like, okay, the fireplace was also ugly, 3 stars. So it's super crucial to communicate the fixes on there, because you're going to get them. You're not going to be able to make everybody happy. As proactive as you are, there's still a sense of reactiveness. So yeah, I double down on that, saying just respond right away with a thoughtful, non-aggressive, hey, we fixed the problem, thank you for your feedback.
I would say especially on cancellations, because a lot of times guests can still leave a review even if they canceled the stay, and responding to that. If there is something with a negative review, politely say, hey, sorry, we'd like for you to come back, but you didn't get to experience this property.
Sorry, a bear got into the house and we had to cancel your booking.
But even if the guest cancels too, so.
You got bears out there, scorpions out here, I don't know. I always, talking to people who are self-managing, usually they'll, maybe they're talking to me directly about potentially using our services, but they're at a point in their lives where they're still managing themselves. They're doing fine. They're not ready to make that change. But usually the call I'll get when they're looking for help is when they get their first bad review. And I always say just, reviews are huge in marketing. It's kind of the point here of this whole segment. But you can't win them all. At the end of the day, we're in the property business and we're in the people business, and those are 2 challenging things. And so just having all your ducks lined up, but then remembering you don't win them all.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, let's talk about property upgrades and enhancements that people can do, and let's just assume people their listing is up and running. Maybe it's not meeting their standards, their expectations. It's struggling to get bookings, or guests are just generally unhappy with the property. What are some things, and I want to hear from both of you as far as like your individual markets and what you see there, but what are some kind of important upgrades that people can do within their properties to increase revenue performance?
Sure. Well, that is a question that's going to change year to year, and this industry is a consistent evolving thing. So it used to be your basic house. I have a full kitchen. I have bedroom setups. Cool. It'll rent. People are looking for that.
As a long-term rental, I converted to a short-term rental kind of thing. Yeah.
So now, it's okay. We like that, but we want more. Market specific here, you're seeing a lot of growth with properties that have hot tubs. And I think we have some quantifiable data on that. It's about 15% more in terms of revenue and occupancy across the board, 1 to 6 bedrooms. So generalized number of a boost in performance for having a hot tub. And out here, I've taken a stronger stance, not necessarily an amenity, but you could consider it pet friendly, being an amenity. If you are truly looking at your home as a business, you're going to be pet friendly. I ran data on my specific property. Q1 of this year, 65% of my bookings had a pet. That's pet fees you're collecting for any presumed damage, extra cleaning. And then in turn, it's 65% more demand for my place, which is going to increase the price and just, have that ripple positive effect for me as an owner, which, if there was a damage where something happened, and preface to this date, knock on wood, I've not had any pet damage substantial at my place. So I'd say hot tubs, pet friendly for here. And then we are seeing, we actually have our first experience with a home with a barrel sauna. And we don't have enough data to, say 15% more on revenue, but the calendar just lit up. So stuff like that, you think Colorado, even Colorado Springs, we're, looking at the Front Range right now. We're not in the mountains, but it's that mountain feel. So those are very important ones. If I had to pick the top three, I'll pick four. A game room is also very important because game room, like cool outdoor area, we have 300 days of sunshine here. People want to come enjoy that. So if you have, cornhole, a barbecue grill, propane, please, fire pit outside, those are, I guess, the recipe that I would recommend for a successful amenity basket for Colorado Springs.
Why wouldn't someone want to do pet friendly?
The conversation I hear a lot is, I just don't want to deal with it. These wood floors, they're brand new. I don't want them up on the couch. I don't like dogs. It's a lot of I don't like. So it's a homeowner that may have some sentimental value to the home, might not fully understand the macroeconomics of it, where, again, if you look back, increasing demand for your home, it's going to drive the rates. It's going to, heighten the occupancy. Your RevPAR equation will look better. That's the main, push I get on that. And will the cleaners clean up the dog poop, all that good stuff. So people are just apprehensive to the damage, more work, etc. And if you're a homeowner and you're doing all the cleaning yourself, cool, I get that. That's a lot. But if you're hiring a professional cleaning team, if it's a pet clean, throw in that pet fee that you're charging and pay them a little more to peel back the couch cushions, go pick up dog poop in the yard. And if there is sufficient damage, whatever platform these guests are booking through, there is coverage baked into the cake in a lot of cases on these platforms. So to me, it's each owner's choice, but I've strengthened my opinion on the pet matter a little bit. And with service animals, that's another hot topic in this industry. If somebody has a service animal and it's a true service animal, you're going to have a dog in your home. So you might as well open that up and get incentivized to do so.
Hey, if you want to check out the house that we filmed the podcast at today, it's in Monument, Colorado. It's got mountain views, pool table, movie theater setup, links in the description. So maybe if you're setting up the home, maybe you could look at things that probably less carpet, look at certain furnitures that don't, because what I've heard, dog poop and then the hair is the big thing that cleaners have to spend additional time on.
Well, and I think you were with me when I saw this when we were walking my cabin. I installed a dog poop bag dispenser, and I got so excited when I saw the last guest actually use the dog poop bag and picked up the poop. So just the stupidest thing that made me excited, but giving them the tools to clean up after their pet. Having a pooper scooper in the backyard, a dog bag dispenser, bought on Amazon for $20. So just being proactive in the thought process there, because most people that travel with their pets, they're going to be responsible. They're going to be good. They're going to take care of things. It's, that 20% that wrecks it for the 80%.
Okay. So Colorado, mainly we see hot tubs, pet friendly. What was it? You had a third one. What was the
sauna? I'll throw sauna in there.
Sauna.
And then
just outdoor amenities.
Outdoor amenities.
Yeah. I've seen horseshoe pits, tetherball, court, all kinds of stuff.
I'm really pushing for somebody to do a sand volleyball here. So I think that'd kill it.
Okay. Killian, you see similar things or different things in Arizona?
Yeah, well, I like actually kind of where Craig started. When people think amenities, we usually go directly to like tangible things, but having a home dog friendly is basically a universal increase in revenue. Now, maybe there's a case to be made for like a downtown condo where, maybe you shouldn't be bringing your dog anyways, but guests are going to bring their pets. We love our pets. We bring them places. So I would say no matter what market you're operating out of, pet friendly. And just some things to consider, though, I already mentioned your flooring. But a big one that goes commonly overlooked is your fencing. Is your backyard actually fenced in? Because guests don't know that, and they may just let the dog run out. And although that's not directly your fault, arm your guests with that information. Maybe give them the fence height. And that's fully fenced in.
In fact, I think Airbnb just added a filter amenity that's fully fenced in yard. So that's a good point.
Gotcha. So, but yeah, so pet friendly, big and good point. You're going to have service dogs in there. It's not a matter of if, it's just when. And so you might as well open that up to a wider demographic of travelers. I could be inaccurately stating this, but I believe that, like, I don't know if it was Colorado, but like 38% of listings were dog friendly and they received like 54% of the reservations. So my numbers might be wrong, but I'm just creating that. There's that huge ratio. A smaller number of dog-friendly properties are getting the majority of reservations. You know, different areas, your amenities are also going to be somewhat seasonal. So whereas in the Colorado area where you go through 6 months of some pretty cold weather, a hot tub is just going to skyrocket that performance. Out here in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area, hot tubs do improve performance because there is a portion of the year that, the weather's cool, it's enjoyable to get in the hot tub. And so you do see an increase of homes with hot tubs versus without hot tubs. But a major thing you see out here is pools. And you can, not every pool is the same, first and foremost, and not every pool is a heated pool. So a number one sought after amenity out here in this area is first and foremost a heated pool. So you're going to be providing a heated pool to guests for roughly 4 months out of the year, and you'll be charging them a pool heating fee, whatever you determine that to be based on your property. Or you may have a non-heated pool. You're going to, and when it comes to pools out here, between a home with no pool and a home with a pool, you're seeing about 30 to 40% difference in gross revenue. So it's a major amenity out here. Second to that would be your outdoor space in general. Folks are coming to Arizona to be outside, to be in the sun, and similar related activities. So a major component for the Arizona area is your backyard space, which of course includes a pool and a hot tub. But AstroTurf, built-in yard games, you're seeing bowling alleys, chess, checkers, mini little, not go-kart tracks, but like for children, a lot of different things. You're starting to see more and more of the residential resort feel. So, rewind 5 years ago, you take a property, you furnish it well, you run it well, you've got a nice short-term rental. We saw a lot of those types of properties come on the market, and we also saw home prices change, interest rates change. It became a little bit more difficult to make numbers where investors wanted them to. What we're seeing now is if you take that same home and you spend the additional money to make those amenities short-term rental specific, so you're almost turning that property into a residential resort. Those are the types of properties that you see perform heads and tails better than their competition in the area. So your pool, your outdoor space, your grilling space, and then of course this can be inside and outside, but your game room setups, your air hockey, your pool tables, sometimes you have the little basketball, there's a lot of moving parts, so that can get broken easily. And of course your classic ping pong. And then you're also seeing a lot of now your retro arcade games. But the goal with your amenities is to create an experience for the guests that they're not going to get at their own home. And so when you're setting up that vacation rental, you want it to even maybe outpace the property you live in, because that's what's creating the draw to that property. So you could take a property that maybe is a little further away from the sought after destination area, but you can turn it into that residential resort and it'll create a bit of its own draw itself. And the drive time to maybe, let's say, Old Town Scottsdale is a little more digestible now because you essentially have your own resort back at home where you booked. So your game rooms, I guess, just starting from the top, your pool, your outdoor, your backyard space, AstroTurf, grilling space, outdoor kitchen, pergola, hot tub, into your inside, your game rooms, your wall-mounted TVs, your arcade games. Yes.
Well, those are great points. And another conversation. They're tough conversations to have with a homeowner who's struggling. Hey, I'm not making my margins. I want to make more money. The answer, throwing more money at it sometimes isn't well received. But truthfully, with what you're saying, making sure that it is set up with the bells and whistles for the area. If you're a 30-minute drive from all the tourist destinations, that's how you got to pay to play.
So yeah, my question was going to be, hey, Killian, I have a home in Scottsdale, but I don't have a pool. And I don't even know how much a pool costs at this point, but I'm guessing 40, 50 grand plus more. Yeah. I don't have that kind of money to put in a pool. What are some other things I can do that would have, would they have as great of an effect as putting in a pool? Maybe not, but
your pool is very hard to compete with. Definitely. I would say your step down from that would be your hot tub, your outdoor kitchen, an amazing grilling space, and
pickleball court.
Well, listen, if you can get a pickleball court in a property, you're doing well. Slight off topic, but when it comes to amenities, that the clients that I'm seeing to be the happiest at the moment are folks who are looking for properties with large lot sizes that they can come in and design those backyards to be specific for a vacation rental. Some work on the inside, paint, whatever it may be. But it's very hard to compete with your pool. But if you don't have a pool, unfortunately these days, putting a pool in the property doesn't show a huge increase in resale value. It's not very proportional, unfortunately. But that's also why we encourage people to look at this 3 to 5 years as an investment, because as you do spend money into your business, which is your vacation rental, to upgrade the amenities, it will take a little bit of time to see that return back to you. But I'd focus on grilling, mini golf courses, other backdoor games that are a little bit more cost effective, but it is certainly very hard to compete with a home that has a pool.
Gotcha. Cool. What about professional photography? In my opinion, that is aside from all the marketing things we talked about, getting people attracted to your listing, but getting them actually to convert and book. One of the main things people see is the photos of the property, right? You got on Airbnb, you got your main showcase photo on the main profile as you're scrolling through all the listings, and you have your title, and that's it. That's all people are seeing, and that's all that people are making a decision on to click and decide whether they want to book that.
Yeah, I would say, the number one tip to hamstring yourself in this industry is cut corners on the photos. That's just going to tank your listing immediately. And give your photographer a ready product. This means that your TV cords aren't hanging down off your TV. Your lamp cords aren't daisy chained across the living room. That's just safety in general. But give your photographer something to photograph. The editing process of your photos is not the time to correct issues at the property by editing those things out. I see that a lot commonly out here with pools. It's hard to get a pool crystal clear for the photos because of the weather, obviously, but you got to do your best to do that, because after the fact is not the time to make that amenity look presentable. Same with hot tubs. But yeah, if you'd like to hamstring yourself, cut corners on your photos, your photo package should include drone photography first and foremost, and should be closer to your $400 to $500 mark than it should be to your $100 mark for your photo package. So you might be good with a camera, and you might have a friend who's good with a camera, but you're setting up a business and your competitors are not taking subpar photos. It's probably one of the biggest bangs for your buck.
Question on that, twilight photos. This has become very popular in the past couple of years, and I see these a lot. You got the LEDs stringed up. You got the hot tub with the LEDs on right at twilight. It looks good and it's glowing. Is this something, obviously it typically costs more. Is this something people should always always do, or is this like kind of case by case depending on the house?
I'd again lean on the uniqueness of the home. If you're in a condo downtown Colorado Springs, cool, you probably have a patio. But if you have that nice yard to showcase, you have the fire pits, you have the hot tub, it goes into the telling the story. You just got done hiking all day, come enjoy the yard. It's sunset, the lights are popping, the fireplace is lit, the hot tub's bubbling. So I say absolutely if you have the right things to showcase. But if you don't have a nice yard, et cetera, put your money into a house with a nice yard.
Yeah.
So.
Or just showcase maybe the indoor amenities and things that are, the showcase the nicer things in the property.
Yeah, if you have those things that stand out like a view, I mean, I would say just generally, like if I had to just say yes or no to twilight photos, I'd say yes. 9 times out of 10 get twilight photos on a property. But I think it depends a little bit on the view and the property, and also your geographic area. So like in Arizona, the sunset is a pretty sought after thing. We have gorgeous sunsets out here, and they can be captured very well with very little editing. So it would also slightly depend maybe on your geography. Sunsets are pretty big out here.
Yeah. Okay. And then seasonality. So Killian, this probably doesn't pertain to Arizona as much because you can probably just put an egg frying on the concrete all year round. But for Colorado, maybe
got one here cooking now.
Nice. For seasonality of places like mountain states like Colorado, where you see a lot of snow, and then you've got a really warm, sunny summertime. Maybe showcasing a little bit of both of those. That way, if somebody arrives, they're looking to book the property in the middle of summer, July right now, you got all snow photos. You want them to see what it's going to look like when they get there. So maybe having kind of a balance, a little bit of both, that you can kind of switch out which ones are at the top depending on the season. You can keep the other ones on, maybe just push in the summer, push the winter photos to the bottom kind of thing.
I think that's very important. And specifically talking about our investment property, we have horseshoes. Nobody's going to use horseshoes with 3 feet of snow. Awesome to showcase in July, June, whatever. In the winter, we have snowshoes, horseshoes, snowshoes, and then a sled. So it's cool to showcase those things because there's a small hill, the kids can play on it. So the amenities change, the landscape changes. If you have snow, cool, the yard looks great, but we're not going to be able to use it. But in the summer, showcasing like you can play games, cornhole, horseshoes, etc. out here. But I think, for expectation management, seasonal photos are a must.
Anything else on photos? I think just real quick, I wanted to touch on the listing title because, again, 2 things they see, a guest sees when they're going to book is the photo and the listing title. Listing title, you've got about 50 characters that you can fit in a description of your property. Utilize that space as much as you can. So if it's showcasing, hey, I really like the area this is, or I like the style quality of the build of the home. Maybe you got a pool or some of your big amenities. What are some things you guys see with listing titles that are normally effective? Other than, I'd say, avoiding your kind of generic words like cozy and cozy, and I'm trying to think of some other ones. Cottage.
Personally, I think that a guest should be able to glean a decent amount of information from that headline. I'm typically recommending that your bedroom count be in there and some of your major amenities.
Because when you look at the filters, it's by guests, not by bedrooms, right? In Airbnb?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if someone's searching for, capacity for 6 people, but they want specifically 4 bedrooms, it's going to pop up 2, 3 bedrooms, people with bunk bedrooms, all that stuff too.
And you can play with these too. So just an example out here is the area around the State Farm, the Cardinals football stadium is kind of a checkerboard of nice versus not so nice neighborhoods. But there's a lot of vacation rentals just throughout the area because it's right by the stadium. And so on a listing like that, one of the amenities is the fact that your so close to the football stadium. So football games, concerts, year round, all sorts
Taylor
of things.
Swift, woo!
Taylor Swift, biggest weekend of the year for vacation rentals out here. Beat the Super Bowl. But so like for that specific listing, I want to let that guest immediately know that they're within the vicinity of the stadium. The pool's heated. There's a pool table, and there's 3 beds. It's a 3-bedroom. And so I'm of the opinion that they should be able to quickly glean very pertinent decision-making information from that listing headline. And then maybe that can somewhat be reinforced and backed up by your first, 6 primary marketing photos.
No, I agree with that. And to double down on it, really thinking, who is your customer avatar? Who's booking this home? What can I say in 50 characters or less to be like, hey, book me? And if that's a location, if you're in, Old Colorado City, for reference, you're close to all these tourist attractions. If you're a mountain home, hey, couples retreat, depending on the size, or a family getaway, whatever it is, really just envisioning who your customer is, who's going to be renting this home, what's the main demographic? Is it family groups traveling? Is it people going to a concert? Are they coming up here for the fishing? And doing, I guess, some just recon work of that demographic, who books in this area.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
Yeah, well, this kind of goes back a little bit to what website you're on, VRBO, Airbnb, kind of demographic of bookers or guests booking, but get a general idea of where your guests are coming from. Are these all guests that are driving from within the state, which is pretty big in Colorado? Or are these guests coming from other states? What states are they coming from? Is this area that you're operating in an area that attracts a lot of overseas travel? To Craig's point about booking.com. So just kind of a...
Well, you could probably tell me better, but I believe our main demographic here is Texas.
It's a little more than a third of our guests, but probably more than half of our guests are driving to this location. It's a huge drive to location. Whereas I think Phoenix area, maybe more people flying in. I don't think it's quite the drive destination.
Some of that snowbird travel, escaping the winter type of travel, which is usually a couple states over, Midwest, Canada, even California. So,
gotcha. Okay. Do you guys have any? You may have some personal ones with your place, but any success stories from, let's say, a house that wasn't maybe performing well and they added additional amenities like a hot tub or pickleball court? Do you have any like actual success stories where someone went out, they invested this extra money? Because even a hot tub itself, it's probably gonna cost you $5,000-6,000. Then if you don't have power, you got to run power. If you don't have a flat surface, you got to lay concrete. It's an investment. Someone's going to have to invest a good bit of money to make this happen, especially a pool. Do you have any success stories?
I do. I got 2 in the chamber. So first and foremost, personal. I have a limited space for my rental, and amenities are tight, interior. So looking, what can you do with that? And can't add a pool table, can't add a ping pong table. So I went, and I think you mentioned it earlier, Killian, the arcade games. I bought a Pac-Man machine and put that in arcade style right off the bat. Good reviews in response to it. The kids loved it. We enjoyed this. Super cool. So made an instant difference. And that was a couple $100. I mean, it wasn't bad. I'd love to get a hot tub there. Just it's not in the budget right now. I hear that all the time, and I feel it. So did that, immediate success on satisfaction. And then we actually have a home that we manage out in the Peyton area, big, beautiful home. I think it's something like 4,000 square feet. It's a seclusive retreat. You can go out there, built for families. And they just got a hot tub here recently. And again, just the feedback on it right away, and then seeing the bump in revenue and occupancy, I think it's awesome to see. They got to that point where they can make that investment, and then it just takes off.
Yeah, I know hot tubs here in Colorado is the #1 searched amenity, and then pet friendly. So right away, you got the majority of people are searching for a home with a hot tub. So you add yourself into that list and that group.
And just having the amenities, I bet you 9 times out of 10, because I'm guilty of this, people go there and they might not even use all your amenities, but they booked it because of them. So that's the important part. Where we stayed in a rental once and we felt obligated to use the pool because we booked it because of the pool. We were busy doing other things, having fun. It's like, oh, well, we got to go in the pool because we booked it. So just having them for that marketing op, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of sounds calloused, but like you want to check these boxes. Like you want to be able to check the boxes of these amenities on these booking websites. The majority of them all have the same amenities you can choose from. Some have a little bit more, some have a little bit less, but that goes back to your listing optimization. You want to make sure you're in there being able to check almost every single box that OTA offers, because that's all feeding back into their algorithms on how well put together your listing is. So listing optimization. A quick success story, same property owner, so same investor owns multiple homes with us, both 5-bedroom homes, both pushing up on the 3,000, 2,500 square foot, so decent sized homes. Both have pools, both have heated pools, both have mini golf courses, but one has a recently installed pickleball court, and both homes have just hit a year over performance. And the home with the pickleball court is doing like 38,000, 42,000 gross more than the one without a pickleball court.
Wow.
The cost of that pickleball court to install was roughly that. But I mean, that's paid for its first year, and it's just smooth sailing from here on. So now that's somewhat market dependent, right? You're not going to go throw a pickleball court into all areas of the United States, but worth considering. And you're definitely going to see an uptick of revenue and occupancy for those properties. It's unique. It doesn't necessarily need to be a pickleball court. That's just a huge growing sport played by all ages. But I don't know if we were recording previously, but volleyball court was mentioned. But I would just go into this these days thinking residential resort.
Yeah. And if you don't have the means to invest this much money at the time, start with smaller things. Start with, hey, maybe I can update the seating in my house. Maybe I can I don't have any outdoor furniture, a grill, like some much lower cost type of amenities you can start with. And something I'll caution too, even with the hot tub, sometimes you will see, immediate change in bookings, but sometimes it takes time, and don't expect, every case to be the same as Killian's example of the pickleball court, where you immediately get your return back. Sometimes it'll take time. And the bookings you got now, it's going to take maybe 3 to 6 months to really see the results of that, whatever amenities you're putting in. Last thing I want to talk about today is dynamic pricing tools. So, the infamous dynamic pricing tools. What does it mean? So for people on Airbnb, they may assume the smart pricing tool is a dynamic pricing tool. It is in a sense, but it's pretty limited on its functionality. Essentially, a dynamic pricing tool is a set of algorithms that are, there's different complexities of them, but essentially they're looking at market data, they're looking at other short-term rentals, they're web scraping off all the OTAs, Airbnb, VRBO, and they're constantly dynamically tracking what is booking volume for this type of house. Some of them go into the weeds. They even look at what are the specific reviews on this place and the suggestions, what are the amenities on this place, and it's constantly changing and fluctuating the price throughout the year. One thing I will say is if you're not using any smart pricing tools and you're just doing a static, hey, 150 across the year, at least get on Airbnb's smart pricing tool. Now, that's generally going to price you a lot lower, and it's just going to go for volume, get as many bookings as possible. That's what Airbnb wants. So it's not necessarily going to maximize your revenue, but I'd say it's advantageous compared to just a flat rate, which I've seen in the past. And if you're doing a flat rate, you're leaving thousands of dollars on the table. There are a lot of smart pricing tools out there. Some of them are very hands-on, where you basically have to manage this Revenue management is a career of its own. There's an entire language of this, but basically you want to, optimize your revenue by balancing ADR and occupancy. And we've used the example 100 times of, hey, I could get 100% occupancy if I booked $100 a night, or I could do $350 a night and get no occupancy. So it's kind of an art form. It's somewhere in the middle, and it's constant fluctuation. And it depends on what events are going on. A good example is the Broadmoor here just announced they're going to be doing the Senior Open next year for June 26th to the 29th. Even our pricing, smart pricing tool, or our dynamic pricing tool didn't even account for that. So going in and making those changes, because people are already booking those days up, and the waste management open's a huge one, right? You have some of these periods of time where you've got 2 or 3 months with huge, high demand dates that are going to be, potentially 40-50% of your revenue for the year. So if you miss those and you're off, you're screwed for the year. So if people are looking at, again, a dynamic pricing tool, there's a lot of them out there. We can name a couple: Wheelhouse, Beyond Pricing, Price Labs, and each one's going to vary on how much. Some of them have the ability for you to kind of step back, and I still say there's no set it and forget it, like the Senior Open. If someone wouldn't have told me about that date, the pricing tool didn't pick up on it. So these are constantly changing algorithms where they're putting in different variables that it's comparing to. Is it comparing to hotels? What are hotels? What's hotel demand in this certain area? We can go in deeper into it, but it's a fairly complex thing. But I would say if people are really looking to maximize revenue, this would probably be the number one thing over everything.
This is not to sound too hyperbolic, but this is kind of your crystal ball in a sense in this industry. If you're ever sitting there going onto Airbnb and trying to figure out what other people's pricings are to try to price your home, you've got a lot of bad information in those numbers that show up when you go to book that property to try to get an idea what their pricing is. People have all sorts of fees built into there. Sometimes they're hiding cleaning fees. There's going to be a lot of other items tucked into that nightly rate other than just what is at the end of the day defined as the nightly rate. And so when you're looking at those pricings, sometimes you're getting bad information and then going and pricing your home incorrectly. With dynamic pricing, you're able to see what all your competitors are doing very accurately. What their pricing is, what their future pricing is, their performance, those types of things, all the way down to your hotels, as Phil had mentioned. So you're getting as holistic of a picture of what's going on in that market in almost as real time as you can by leveraging these dynamic pricing softwares. So these groups will even advertise this, but you're seeing 20 to 40% increases in revenue by switching over to reliable dynamic pricing softwares.
Yeah, I almost think of it as it's almost like an assistant to help you price.
Absolutely.
Because if you were going to do all this manually from a day, like it can literally change day to day based on, hey, this concert got canceled, so everyone's canceling it. Hey, I need to get this booked. I need to drop my price really fast. But are you there every day to make that change? That would be quite a bit of work, and you, literally every day have to look at it. So it's almost assistant to kind of give you a baseline of how the market's doing, and then you can kind of step in and make your own adjustments.
Well, I think a misconception is people don't want to lose control over their pricing. With all these pricing softwares and dynamic pricing tools, they have parameters you can set where it's a floor, a base, and I'm speaking generally. I assume most of them do. I'm familiar with a couple. But you don't lose control over your pricing. You can set those parameters, you can steer it. And another important distinction I'd like to make, and you hit on it before, Airbnb, they're built to get you bookings. That's their purpose. They're built to fill your home, advertise your home. They're not built to price your home correctly. So they're not incentivized to do so. They're incentivized to get your home booked. So it'd be silly to not fill that toolbox with all the appropriate tools to get the job done.
Yeah, you're gonna miss out on a lot of revenue. I had an owner I met with, and I was looking at his listing, and he was complaining about his overall revenue, and he had just static pricing, 150 throughout the year. And what we saw and what we looked at was maybe that was good and competitive rates for kind of the slower season, but I mean, we ended up pricing the house out $450, $500 a night in the summer. So it's literally thousands of dollars he was missing out on. And really it's just, hey, I don't have time or any knowledge to do this, which is fine. But yeah, again, the static rate, get away from it. Don't do the static rate. At least
Absolutely.
I don't know that VRBO has, I don't think they have like a smart pricing tool that I know of.
I don't know that
Otherwise,
they
I
do.
haven't seen it. I don't know if any of the platforms other than Airbnb have some kind of smart pricing tool.
If they do, it's not good. Sorry, VRBO.
Well,
but
you gotta think of their interest. Like VRBO, Airbnb, they are for-profit business. They have an interest, just as your short-term rental is a business and you have a monetary interest. They're there for volume. Every time you get a reservation, you see what that booking website's taking from you in terms of the booking fee for using their platform.
Yeah. I mean, essentially it's determining what the booking window is. What length of time are people booking out from? How far out are they booking? And then you can determine how to adjust your prices from there. And if you're getting, if you're looking at that, like you said, it compares you to the rest of the market and where you're at as far as occupancy, ADR. And if you're looking at, you're in, July right now, and the rest of the market's at 60% occupancy, and you're at 20% occupancy, it'll give you tools to know, like, okay, how much lower do I need to lower my base in order to catch up to the rest of the market?
Otherwise, you're just stabbing in the dark.
Yeah,
basically.
otherwise you're just guessing. You have no idea.
I think that's a crucial point, the data that's behind it. So you don't have to go through digging through all these listings and to your point, Killian, knowing what's baked into the cake with some of the pricings, what's a true accommodation fare. It gives all that for you, takes it all off you, to your point, like an assistant pricing tool. So I think that's huge, because I wouldn't know how to properly price a 2-bedroom in Woodland Park without digging in and doing my own research.
Yeah,
So,
and it changes over the season. It changes each year based on even the economy and there's thousands of different factors that are in these different algorithms, these dynamic pricing tools.
and it helps you plan for budget. You're not going to have your highs of July and January. You're going to see that visually of what the market's done. You could predict what it's going to do.
Right. Cool. Anything else on dynamic pricing other than
Do it.
don't use static pricing?
Yeah.
I keep
Other
saying
than
that.
do it, I mean, if you want like a real-time example that people engage with every single day, when you go book an airplane, when you go book a hotel, these folks have been doing this for years and years and years, and they're very dialed in. You almost refresh that page, and it's almost a different price every time you go look at it. And so they're looking at things that just a single individual would never be able to pick up on. So.
Something funny. I don't know if you guys saw this or heard of this. There's a lot of fast food restaurants using revenue management and dynamic pricing now, which is
I saw that.
I kind of disagree with that, but basically based on their demand and their sell volume for the day, they're changing the price. So if you go to Wendy's or something, it's like, hey, there's nobody in here. Let's lower the price. If it's, they've got a full drive-through or whatever it is, they're like, all right, let's jack up the price of that sandwich.
Walmart switched to all digital price tags too, here at least. So I wonder if that's the intent as well for surcharges or whatnot.
Well, we were talking about at one point, is there a way to develop dynamic cleaning prices and dynamic handyman prices, because there's so much seasonality in this industry. So it's just interesting to see it go into more and more industries.
Capitalism.
Yeah, you got your ride shares.
And we'll end the podcast on that. Capitalism. No. Okay. Well, just to recap, kind of some of the things we talked about and some of the points, so people can kind of take home some tangible things that they can actually do. So effective marketing strategies. We talked about, social media, email marketing, maybe not start with that, but it can be an effective strategy, especially if you have a very unique home or unique amenities or location. Marketing platforms, highly encourage people to do some risk mitigation, get on multiple platforms, diversity from a broad booking standpoint, where you just have access to more guests that can see your home and book your home. And then, if Airbnb, delist you or something like that, your business isn't going under, kind of thing. And then we talked about the property upgrades and enhancements for Colorado. We want to look at the big bangers: hot tub, pet friendly. I forgot again. What was the third one?
I threw in sauna. And then
Sauna. Okay. Maybe sauna or
outdoor space. Maybe.
Outdoor space. That's right. Yeah. Outdoor space, your fire pit, your just outdoor seating, especially
yard games.
Yard games, things like that. For Arizona, we looked at pool. Seems to be a must-have. It's kind of becoming the standard. A pool, and then the outdoor amenities. You had mentioned like creating an oasis, or like a resort.
A residential resort. Yeah,
I like that. You coined that term.
Yeah.
Residential resort.
It seems to be really what people are looking for. Like, we're going a little off topic here, but you've got all sorts of variations of hotels. You've got hotels to full-blown resorts, and they both have a space in the market and serve a purpose. I just am personally seeing the purpose-built, like designed to be almost a residential resort, become the cream of the crop. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. You mentioned pet friendly too for Arizona as
Absolutely.
well as a big one. Did you have a third one? There's pools, hot tubs, pet friendly,
your
outdoor
game
amenities.
tables, kind of tied into the
Okay.
last one of Craig's, but your amenities, your fire pit, your pool tables, your hockey tables. Yeah.
Your Instagram worthy kind of setups, right?
Absolutely. The sky's the limit. Movie theaters, so the sky
Okay.
really is the limit.
And then again on that, if you don't have the means to, do these larger investments, start with the small things. Start with, hey, does your furniture need upgraded? Do your photos need upgraded? Can you get a grill or some outdoor furniture? Just some small things, even decorations. That'll just be more eye-catchy in the photos. Would always be a good start. And then the last thing we talked about was dynamic pricing. Look into dynamic pricing tools. At least don't use the static rate. It's not the best, but it's better. Use Airbnb's smart pricing tool rather than not. I think that was the main points we had covered. Anything else you guys want to add? I did have some questions from the audience, but and we had the cameo from Saul from Feed. That was great. Yeah, use professional photography. Don't use your iPhone. If you're not a professional photographer, you're not a professional photographer. So hire a company to come out and do it and stage the property right. Don't count on them to be your stagers for your property. Make sure your lighting's good. Blinds are open as much daylight as possible. Don't use overexposure in the pictures. Don't over edit them, because then you're going to sell something that's not what it is. I think that was the main points we had kind of covered.
I just do have a general question from the audience. I get a lot. Let's say that someone was doing this with their first property, or they were about to do it with 2 or 3 properties. If all this was overwhelming for them, or they had a life change and they didn't want to do this anymore, what would you recommend they do?
You mean
is that now the time to consider management? What do you recommend?
Oh, you don't mean as far as like getting into the industry, purchasing a home. You're saying kind of self-manage. Hey, I want to increase my revenue, but I don't want to get into all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to quite become a revenue manager, kind of a marketing, distribution, listing professional.
Right. Yeah, there's companies out there that do that. There's full turnkey solutions out there that will manage all of these things for you. Obviously you're going to pay a cost, but like you said, Killian, all of these additional things will enhance your revenue, but they all take time, and part of that time is just going to be learning the tools, setting up the tool, and learning how to manage it and how it actually works, how to do it effectively. So yeah, if you don't have the time, you have a full-time job and this isn't it, hire a management company to do it for you, especially if you're looking at this from a long-term perspective and you want someone to consistently be there to take care of everything over the course of time, your life, if you're managing cleaners, maintenance, all this stuff already, all the operational logistics already, you already know that, one or two or that contract company you use to do maintenance isn't always consistent, or they can't always come when you would like them to come because the guest is asking you to fix this right now. So that's why I would say, hire a property management company, and just add in, the cost of your time and what you're saving. And what I always say is, like, if you really like doing this and you love it and this is your full-time job, then do it. Why not?
Yeah.
But if you have a full-time job, you have a career, and you don't have time for this, and this is more of an investment portfolio for the long term, hire them to take all that time, give you back all of that time, so you can go reinvest in another property, and you can just keep doing that and build up an investment portfolio.
And I'd stress and layer in on that, finding a local management company, and complementing to what you said with the golf tour. A big nationwide company is not going to know that. They're not going to pick up on it, maybe, but being in the market, being able to have inspections routinely done, keep the property up, and just know what's going on. And adding to that, I don't know if our avid listeners have been watching the last podcast or the last few, but getting involved in local advocacy of what's going on with policy making in your community, in your state. So finding a local company wherever you are, I would put a lot of stress on that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Just like with the Airbnb and VRBO, all the platforms, policies can change the way you manage your property, but so can, state, city, legislations like that. Yeah, the legislations, they were looking at doing a commercial tax on all short-term rentals, which, effectively would have taken a lot of owners' margins out and made it, probably not the greatest investment anymore. But luckily that, went in our favor. But advocacy was there, and I know you were there at the Capitol speaking on behalf of Hosty and all of our owners, and that means a ton. Otherwise, who's going to take their time out of their day? Because it wasn't like it was. You were there for what, 6+ hours?
12. I was there for 12 hours.
Oh gosh!
If it wasn't,
That's real
but that's the
change.
thing. It's my job. It's my job to do that. I don't have a full-time job somewhere else where I was able to do that, because we're a local management company and then represent our homeowners, where that's why we're managing, because they're full-time employers, employers, workers, parents, going to school, etc., whatever. That's why they use a management company. So yeah, it's hugely important.
Obviously in our best interest that those policies those laws aren't passed, but also for maximizing revenue as well.
Yep.
Okay. Last thing I just had a question. I think it's kind of similar. Taylor M's asked, should I use the property name in the listing title? So I'm guessing she means like the nickname of the property or something.
I have a tough time with that one, because not everybody's good at coming up with nicknames.
Well, yeah. If you have an offensive nickname,
I've also gotten feedback of like, hey, I don't want the street advertised if people aren't booking it. I don't want them to know that the home's vacant and empty, because a lot of nicknames stem from the street.
From the street name.
And then there was a security, concern there where they didn't want that. So I've heard that. So I would say, if it's thought out, if it plays into the theme of the home, I personally do it. I personally did it with the home that we manage. I call it the hideout, because it sells the story of the home. It, plays into that customer avatar, as I mentioned before. Come hide out from the world. It's the hideout. It's secluded. It's a mountain cabin home. So if it's something like that, absolutely. But I'm very...
Yeah, that's weird. Exactly what I was thinking too. Is if you have the theme of the home. I know there's certain laws where you can't like put a street sign with it on there, but if you have signage in the home, the whole theme of the home is based on that nickname, then it may play out well as far as like marketing and getting people to book the home and it's attractive. Maybe not, because again, that listing title, like you said, Killian, that's your showcase space to like really sell the home as much as possible in those 50 characters. So. Kind of right there with you.
I don't think I'm going to say anything you guys didn't touch on. I always give pause to this. I think, exactly what you said. If it's that type of home, if it's a yurt, a tree house, a very cozy excluded mountain cabin, a luxury resort, and if it really plays into that, I just don't know if it's worth sacrificing the very small amount of room you have in your title heading when you might be able to get the same message across to the guests where you have more room in other parts of your listing, maybe in your summary or your description, where you're telling the story anyways. That's where you're telling. You're selling the sizzle through the pictures and your short clip, selling the sizzle, and then your listing description, is kind of the steak, the story of the property, the more information about it, and maybe that would be a better place for something like that. But also A/B test it. Maybe you're not made of money and you can't really run different things for 6 months or 3 months at a time. But if you're in it for the long run, try some months with it, try some months without it. Try to get the same months, so it might be like a year thing where you're getting June and June, or the same 2 months, so you can compare apples to apples. But
or test it out on multiple platforms with different titles.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Last question. I think we actually already kind of touched on this, but we can just really quickly. Jason Delium, I'm on the fence about pet friendly. Is it worth the hassle of potential damage? So I think we kind of already touched on that. We kind of said, if you're currently buying the home or looking for a home to buy, kind of look for, probably less carpet, and then the furniture you get, look for things that pet hair isn't going to stick to as much, or, it's just kind of can handle that kind of wear and tear. So set the property up for that. If you already have the property, it's kind of up to you. I mean, if the upside of the potential revenue that you could earn from it is higher than the kind of downside of potential wear and tear that you could get, go for that. And again, like you had said, the booking platforms do have, air cover claim and things like that. They have coverage policies based on any kind of damage, even pet damage. So it's just kind of based up to you and your own, risk.
Yeah, look at your property, look at your flooring, that linoleum, that luxury vinyl is borderline indestructible.
I mean, if you've got a very high tier property with, Egyptian kind of furniture that's, everything's kind of priceless and, not really replaceable, or if it is, it's going to be a pain to fight with Airbnb to get back. Maybe not. Maybe don't consider that then.
Well, I like that you brought that up, because sometimes that is a conversation I have with homeowners, investors, where they're like, hey, we don't want to be pet friendly, but we have a hot tub, we have a mountain view, it's a 5-bedroom, we have a great location, we have a basketball court with an arcade room. Okay, you don't need to search for more amenities. You're checking a lot of boxes there. So in those scenarios, by all means, I step back on my stance for pet friendliness there, because they're checking all the desired boxes except one, right? So they're still going to rent out.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to bring your dog to a 5-star luxury resort 9 times out of 10. So for
I
some
did
homes,
that once and it didn't go well for me.
I take that back. But yeah, I don't know if I can think of a situation where pet damage or additional work for pets has outweighed having it not pet friendly. Another thing to just consider there is if you've got dogs on 4 sides of your property that are always barking, maybe it's not the best dog friendly property.
And the other point you made about the fully fenced in too, that was a really good point. Yeah. And not a bad thing to have, because the amount of dogs that just run off, it happens.
And I'm going into too much detail here, but if you're also going to allow dogs, then your maintenance team needs to have a process for that. So you need to be wary that guests might leave the property to allow maintenance to come over to do something, but what have they done with the dog? Is the dog locked up? Is the dog in a room? Did they take the dog with them? So just, increased revenue, but increased things to consider or to have a process in place for.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, it's been fun. It's been great, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, take care.
Have a good day, guys.